Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. Today, I am joined by a person that I stumbled across on Instagram, and I am so excited to get to talk to her. And she's somewhat local, just about an hour drive south-ish of me. But, I'm not driving anywhere because I am here doing work and talking to her. So it's not happening. But I have Briona, but you might know her as Stitches and Spells on Instagram. And Brianna, how are you doing today?
Hey, David, I am doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing good. You actually drive up this way more often than I definitely drive down your way because again, not driving anywhere. But you come up and hang out in Orlando quite often.
Oh yeah, I try to get out there as much as I can.
It's the most magical place on earth, but as you told me off recording, you haven't been to the most magical place on earth for like 10 years or so, but you've been to, dang, I don't know what Universal calls itself, like
The most cool place on earth.
the
I
the,
don't
the, the
know.
coolest place on earth. I mean, they are building like park number 3 as we're talking, not next to the two parks, but in a totally different spot in Orlando.
I know it's going to be really interesting. I'm really looking forward to that park. Actually, I'm pumped.
I'm very excited to see what they do with it because they have so much opportunity. But I just at the same time I'm like I don't know how, like, I've never seen a park split up like that. Like, but they can't grow where they are now because
hmm
Orlando, they're locked in, unlike Disney, who bought like a bajillion acres of swampland and can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I there's so many things that I have in terms of like perspective about the differences between Disney and Universal, but yes, I think I'm sure they'll figure out some cool way to transport people from the original parks to Epic Universe. At least I hope.
Oh, here's hoping. Hopefully it's like some high speed monorail or something.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Brianna, I stumbled across your photography and your cool outfits and everything. I was like, I gotta talk to her because she got a number of different fandoms that I can clearly see in the pictures, and we've got a great list of stuff that we're going to talk about, and they all start with the letter S. So if we were on Sesame Street, we would totally be rocking out the S words today.
Oh my gosh. I thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I just feel really honored to be able to be a guest and that you find my content cool because to me it's just something that I started doing during the pandemic because it was a creative outlet. I already had the Instagram and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start doing me and like finding some cool ways to show my love for different fandoms.
It's been something with March of what, 2020. So we're recording this in August. Your episode releases at the end of September, so it'll be almost, oh my gosh, like 18 months. I'm trying to
Mhm.
do math here. 18, 19, 20. I'm just going to keep counting numbers because Sesame Street again. um but it's been interesting to see people get into new creative outlets like you did. I know a number of people when it started, like, people were creating podcasts and doing stuff online, like streaming, and it's just wonderful to see, like, just people started having more time to do stuff, I guess, with not having to go into work, for the case some cases of people working from home, and just it is, I don't know, it's definitely weird to see, but also great to see, just people stuff happening.
Yeah, and I think for me, just being able to express myself creatively on Instagram is more so just about doing what makes me happy and sharing that with other people and if and I'm finding inspiration from what other people are also doing on Instagram and certain like fandom communities. So to like I love it because it's been an escape. And so that's kind of how I view it.
Absolutely. Now, as I said, we're going to be talking about 3 different fandoms, and then we'll be talking about the content that you create at the end. One of the fandoms that is huge and definitely an escape for a number of people is Star Wars. It's been around for heck 40, 50 plus years, and I'll just keep counting numbers until I get it right. But how did you first get into Star Wars? Like, what was that first pull or experience to get you in there?
So I grew up watching Star Wars. My mom loved it, and she was very much a Billy D. Williams fan. So that,
Yeah.
yeah, Lando, super classy. So for me, like, it was on the TV, like growing up when I was little. And so I already had seen like snippets of the original trilogy when The Phantom Menace came out. And that was the first Star Wars movie that I ever saw in theaters. And that was, I believe, 99.
Yep.
So for me, like, that was so cool to be able to actually see like lightsaber fights on the big screen. Who can forget like the introduction of Darth Maul, even
Yep.
though like in that film he was short-lived unless you watch Clone Wars. But it's just, I'm so passionate about that fandom, just because for me it's just like, I know it's like a space opera, yes, but it's also so much more about like camaraderie and like friendship and love, and like being able to have all these big ideas and big themes, and like what it's like if you're trying to go for this like utopia, and then there's the underlying themes of like religion. And so there's all these different aspects that you can dissect within Star Wars. And for me, that's what I've come to love about that entire franchise and just that entire world since I was little. I every time I watch, I've always come across something different. And I think that for me over time too, my love of Star Wars has deepened because I've found new things to get into every single time.
It's such a universal, or it's such a like, the fandom is such a wide universe for Star Wars, because I mean, you have movies and TV shows and comics and books and toys and video games, where it's like every person has such a different entry point to the fandom, which makes it exciting for me because I love getting to hear the stories. And I have to say, like, every time I hear someone getting into a fandom, whether it's Star Wars or something else, through their parents, like watching it as kids, it always like makes my heart a little bit, like, it gets the awe factor, because I know that it's something that I try to do with my kids, where I'm like, oh, I wish you guys would get into like the things that I used to love. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it hasn't. And for me, it hasn't with Star Wars yet, but I'll keep plugging away at my kids, trying to get them into it.
Yeah.
But I love that your mom was rocking it and digging on Billy D.
Yeah, absolutely. And for us too, I always think about when we're talking about like entry point into Star Wars. My mom has the cassette trilogy, so it came like the VHS. It
Hmm.
came with like the 3 VHS tapes, and they were all within this like special pack, and it had like the gold like folio with the like Darth Vader's mask on the side. So that's what I always think about when I think about Star Wars and how I get into it. Like, I think about grabbing one of those and like popping it into the VHS player and playing it on the TV, and like hearing James Earl Jones and all that. It's very, very nostalgic.
Oh, absolutely. And people don't realize, like my kids, when we talk about videotapes, they have no clue what we're talking about. And it's always like there's just something so satisfying about, and I don't have a VHS player or VCR anymore, but like pushing the tape in and hearing it like be like just click in there, and starting it up. And you know the one thing that I think, especially with Star Wars, is that they have the special editions, right, where they added all
Hmm.
the stuff. And I'm always nostalgic for the original trilogy, with the original graininess and not having all the stuff added in, and just being like, here's what it was back in the late 70s and early 80s. and just going from there and just digging into it like that.
It's so funny that you say that because I remember when I was growing up, you see Star Wars in one way, however you experience it your first time. And then watching it several times through the years, you see the like digital remastering and all of that George Lucas has done. So there was a friend, a coworker who let me borrow his DVD where he actually had the original, like how it aired in theaters, like theatrical release with all the mistakes and everything for
Hmm.
the original trilogy. And I remember watching it and thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that there were so many things that were changed. I always heard about it, but it's very different to actually see that, oh wow, like C3PO had a totally different like limb color and like all this stuff was missing. you know
Yep.
like it's very funny to think about that stuff now, like you were saying, with just the way that things have been changed and edited so much. And so it makes you like want to go back and experience the way that it was originally like supposed to be, when people watched it in the theaters back then.
Right, like people now watching it, they see Greedo shooting at Han Solo before Han, shoots back at the same time. It's like, no,
Yeah.
Han killed Greedo. Han shot first. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, I killed him, and here's some credits to clean up the mess. Thank you very much.
Yep, exactly. I mean, like Han, he was just doing what he had to do.
Star Wars again, movies, TV shows, everything under the sun. If there's something that can be made, they're making it for Star Wars. Are you just a movie Star Wars fan? Do you like the TV shows, like the Mandalorian? Are you looking forward to the other stuff that they're working on? Do you like the Clone Wars? Do you like Rebels? Like where do you fall in the Star Wars fandom of the stuff that you like?
So I am definitely movie and show Star Wars fan. I know there are people who got into the books, and like I've read the Ahsoka Tano book by E.K. Johnston. Like for me, like that was really cool, like side story to be able to fill things in. But I never got into the expanded universe because
Hmm.
I found out about it later, and by then it was like so many books that I couldn't catch up.
Right.
So for me, like I stuck to the films. And then as the shows have come out, I got into Clone Wars late. So that to me is kind of also what sparked my love of Ahsoka Tano, and like identify with her a lot. Yes, so I would definitely say that the shows. So I watched Clone Wars, got into that late, watched Rebels. I've seen the latest Clone Wars season. And then because Disney Plus is doing all these things with Star Wars, of course, well, I have to watch The Mandalorian. And like, okay, I've watched The Bad Batch now, and I still need to catch up on the latest episode, the part 2 finale. So yeah, like for me, it's definitely the majority of films and TV shows.
I wanna talk about something just real quick, and it's not going to have any spoilers or anything. So, and by the time this episode comes out, it'll be a month removed from the season finale. When they announced when Disney announced like all the Star Wars stuff that was coming out, and one of the things was the Bad Batch, right? And I
Mhm.
saw them on the final season of the Clone Wars. I was like, what the heck? Like, out of everything that they could give us, and they're gonna give us like this group of clone troopers, right? This wackadoodle group of them. I have to say, the Bad Batch show has been one of like the highlights for me of stuff that I've watched. It's definitely caught me by surprise with what they did. And really like some of the scenes and some of the stuff that they did is like movie quality, and I was really impressed with the work that they did on that show.
Yeah, they started off really, really strong with tying in. If you watched, the Clone Wars animated series, and if you watched the like even Rebels, like you could see where the tie-ins were, and I think they kind of kept that up throughout the course of this first season. And even so, like, I really enjoy just watching how things have gone down and how it is filling in the gaps within the larger universe with the, even just within the films. Like, so I agree. I was kind of off put when they announced Bad Batch. I thought when their introduction in Clone Wars was cool. I was like, oh, okay, like Rogue Group or like clone troopers are kind of like defects, but they're super talented, and like,
Right.
like that makes sense. But then to have an entire show for them, I was wondering where they were going with it. But now that I've actually seen the first season, I really liked what they've done and how they're kind of how they're a family, and they kind of go through a lot of different experiences, and you kind of see the situations that they're navigating in this new world. And yeah, I'm trying not to like spoil anything, but yeah, I definitely love kind of what it is that Dave Filoni has done with this show so far. It makes me really excited and curious to see what they do for season 2.
Exactly. And I'm right there with it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm just thrilled with everything that they're putting out with the 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, and now we've got like this year December is going to be the Boba Fett show,
Hmm.
and then they've got Obi-Wan that I guess I don't know if they've started production or they're about to ramp up for that, plus Mandalorian season 3. And it's just there's so much that they're doing that I'm so excited about, because they're getting away from the movie, like the Skywalker saga essentially, and just navigating a new universe essentially, where they can play with whatever stories they want to play with and do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, and like that entire universe is so rich with stories. And I think that it is high time that they navigated away from the like Skywalker saga, because like yes, of course we love Luke. Like we love everything about like that entire storytelling with Luke and Anakin and all like just all of that. However, I do think that there's so much more out there, and we've seen that just in snippets while they're highlighting like this the Skywalker saga, that it makes me want to learn more about, well, what's happening on these other worlds. Like what is it like if you're not a Jedi? Like what is it like for people who are trying to survive within the rule of the Empire? Like those are the stories that I'm really interested in learning about, but we never really got it in full force. But I think we're finally starting to get that now.
Exactly. I think one of the things, you touched on it, seeing people living under the rule of the Empire or even post Empire, was there's the episode in Mandalorian where he first meets up with Cara Dune on that like backwater planet,
Hmm.
and it's like the people are just trying to survive, and they've got like these raiders coming in and raiding their supplies and raiding their stuff, and he's like they're training them up, trying to like get the village ready to do a fight, and we're going to take down the walker and everything. And there's like that one character, the one woman that the Mandalorian was all like nice to and like learning about, and she's like able to handle a blaster, and you're like, well, now I want to know more about her. Like what's her story, because she's not learning how to like handle a blaster and shoot in this podunk planet. Like what's her story? Like that to me was like quintessential, just giving me like little snippets of lore, and I want more of this and I want more of that. And it's I love the world building that they're doing.
Yeah. And for me, the thing that stuck out to me about The Mandalorian too was, and I know it's been said, but just the fact that it has always just been small scale. Like it looks big, but the story itself is small. Like every episode, it's a guy, he's got, he comes across whoever it is that needs help, and he helps them. He's got the one job, he completes it, and he's on his way. Like that's every episode. And to me, it's just, it makes it so interesting, because you're like, well, what is he going to get into today? When you're tuning into the episode. And it helps, I think, to build a little bit more about the personalities, and you're kind of getting a little bit more immersed into the things that are happening around you. There's not a million things happening in the background for you to be able to fill in all these blanks and try to put together a bigger picture. I like that it is a smaller scale show, or at least the first 2 seasons were smaller scale.
Yeah. Star Wars, lots of characters. We got a bajillion of them. Who is your favorite? I've got a guess, but I want to hear it come out of your mouth to make sure I get it right.
Well, my favorite is Ahsoka Tano.
Yep, yep.
I feel like you could definitely guess. I know she's a fan favorite. And for me, I didn't even know when I decided that she was going to be the character who I was going to cosplay. Like my first ever cosplay was actually Ahsoka Tano. I remember the first time I watched Clone Wars, the movie, I was like, who is this? Like, like annoying, like Jedi Padawan, like, what is her deal? And then just to see her growth over the course of the show, and then to eventually get to Rebels, because I got into both shows late. So I kind of already had an idea of what was going to happen, but I didn't know how or when. And to be able to see that character growth and to see how powerful she is, and just how, like, I don't want to say human, but like she's very much in touch with her feelings and emotions, and she doesn't try to like hide it. And I know part of that is because she like was trained by Anakin. To me, like, is just the fact that she's just so powerful, and she, is a strong like female character. Like that's what really drew me into her, and she's not afraid to stand up for what she believes in.
Her journey as a character has, like you said, introduced in the movie, which was really not well received back then. But then, as watching her, especially in Clone Wars, just the build up or like the story, her character growth, her character arc was wonderful to watch, from the beginning of the series through to like the when they did the last season of Rebel or Clone Wars on Disney Plus, and getting to see like even more of like her journey outside of being a Jedi, and seeing her in Rebels, and then even getting to see the character brought to live action on Mandalorian is just absolutely incredible. I've it's one of the few times where I can remember like somebody, like people just hating on the character, to then becoming like one of the widely loved characters.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. I remember when one of my friends was like, "Oh, you're going to watch this movie. And you're going to really I remember my friend telling me, he was like, "You're going to really find this character annoying, but I think you're really going to like her." Like, I hadn't even seen a clip yet, and he was just like, "You're really going to like Ahsoka." Like, "Okay, like I guess I'll watch the show and figure it out on my own." And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm so obsessed with this character. She's so cool. And now like I've cosplayed her twice. I'm slowly working on a rebuild, and I feel like anytime I see Ahsoka merch, I'm like all about it. When the show was announced, I was just like texting like frantically with friends, like speculating, and it's exciting to see a character that you care so much about like brought to life.
Absolutely. Now, last question for the realm of Star Wars is, and again, I might get the answer that I'm expecting, but maybe not. What are you most looking forward to with what they're working on for the future? Like, what's the things that you're like, I can't wait for this to come out?
Not going the obvious route, I think I'm really looking forward to the Obi-Wan series, because Obi-Wan is probably my second favorite character in the Star Wars universe. And I think I felt more into Obi-Wan watching Clone Wars, and just seeing a little bit more of like the personality come through that we didn't see in the films.
Yes,
So, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, Obi-Wan has like swagger, he's just like operating how he wants to go about things, and he's not afraid to bend the rules when he needs to, but he's very much, like playing, he's like playing playing the sides that he needs to play when it needs to happen. But I love just like how he moves through just the world of Star Wars with like dealing with people. So I'm really looking forward to the Obi-Wan series and seeing where it takes place and what he gets into, especially knowing what we know about him.
Absolutely. And definitely love Obi-Wan. um I'm still hoping. I know that they talked about a potential Lando series, so I'm hoping Donald Glover comes back for that, because I'd love to see his return, because he was wonderful in Solo.
Yeah.
So just I love what they're doing. I love that Filoni is kind of being a great shepherd for the Star Wars universe now, and everything has been coming up really good on all fronts.
I agree. They've been coming out very, very strong. So I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes.
The next fandom that we're going to talk about again starts with the letter S. Recently ended, but I've been hearing some weird conversations on the internet recently. So we'll get into that in a moment. But we're going to be talking about the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina that was on Netflix. That was way darker than even I expected when I was watching it. I told my wife, I was like, yeah, I don't think you should watch this, because she doesn't watch things where there's like a lot of satanic mentions, and I'm like, yeah, you definitely are not going to watch this show because it's got it all over.
Yes, it does. I absolutely love this series. And for me, like, I love dark and spooky things anyway. So I remember it popping up, if you watch like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like with Melissa Joan Hart, or even
Hmm.
the animated series or the comics, like I already consumed all of that. So when I heard about this series popping up on Netflix, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to watch it. And I remember being hooked after the first episode because I'm like, oh, like Auntie Z is giving me all of the vibes that I'm totally about. She's just so sassy and just does not care what anyone thinks and is going to tell you how it is. And like, I loved the characters who were in that show. It's so good. But yes, it is not for everyone. That is for sure. The how dark they took it, actually, I was surprised about, because I remember seeing the reviews later on about people saying, this is not your like ABC Family version of Sabrina that you may be thinking, from like the 90s. Like, yes, no, there's definitely there's a lot of talk about praise Satan and all kinds of things. So
Yeah, this is your ABC After Dark
yes,
show.
definitely after dark. But you know what? To me, like that's what made it so great, because I loved how it didn't take itself too seriously in that sense, because they were just like, oh, we're going to turn expectations on the head, and people don't expect you to say like praise Satan or like, your unholiness or things like that, where you're kind of you're taking things that are seen as revered and turning it on its head in a way that's unexpected. And so I think that that's kind of what I really liked about that show.
Right. Like I remember when they were doing the show, like it was originally supposed to be on the CW with Riverdale, and CW was like, yeah, we're not taking the show. I think, after seeing the pilot and everything, I don't think that they were like, yeah, I don't think we can air this. And that, like, Netflix picked it up and was like, okay, we're going to take it. It's your loss, CW. Ha. I always wanted, crossovers. It would have been fun to have had like some crossovers, but Riverdale was like its own weird thing going on too. Like they started taking it into a weird place. So I stopped watching it. But with Sabrina, I was like, wow, like I loved the style. I loved the ants. I wasn't really feeling Aunt Z though. Like I was like, man, she's really like mean and strict and closed off, and I really like Hilda. Like Hilda's more my speed of an ant, but I loved what they did with the show and where they took it. And this like really rural type setting that they set it in. Like it just it just added to the whole ambiance and setting and what they were doing. And you can, like, I know driving through some city, like some, I say cities, like I driving through like some small towns where it's like, yeah, I could totally see something like this happening in this town.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like they did a great job with making sure that they had a character for everyone in that show. And it is interesting that you talk about Aunt Hilda too, because I loved Aunt Hilda, but for me, I just loved how Aunt Zelda was just the exact opposite of what you would think of an aunt as being, but you could tell like she was ride or die for her family. Like
Hmm.
like you don't mess with the Spellmans, you know. And then Aunt Hilda was very much the maternal, like I'm going to be like the very caring and sweet, like palatable aunt. And then you had Aunt Zelda, who was just like she was like the hard exterior, but on the inside she was like gooey. You know, you could tell that she had a soft side to her, but you weren't going to get to it that easily.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to say, as much as I enjoyed Sabrina as, a character, and seeing it through like her eyes, my love for Ambrose Spellman knows no bounds. I would love to have an Ambrose TV show because I feel he has so much untapped like history that they could explore with his character. And like I love what he did in the show.
He is, in my opinion, one of the underrated characters of that show. And he carries it in so many different ways. I mean, he's the voice of reason for Sabrina when she needs to be railed in. She still doesn't listen, bad things happen. But, you know, like Ambrose is a wealth of knowledge and he provides that connection for her that she doesn't really get. And so I really love that about him, on top of the fact that like he just seems like such a cool person. And how he even got into being like under house arrest. Like, I want to hear more about that story, you know?
Yeah, there's so much untapped with him because it's just like I need to know more. Like I want to know more about him as a character, and I really feel they there's just so much more that we could have learned about him.
Yeah, I'm really, really bummed that they canceled but didn't cancel the show, because what I've read is that the creator of the show is doing the comics, which I do plan on reading, but they're planning on bringing it back at some point. But there's like some hold with Netflix on this show, and so after I think it's 2 years, after 1 or 2 years, they're supposed to be starting things back up. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. I was like, oh, well, I'm always happy to hear like when a creator is like, oh no, I'm going to bring this show back somehow, some way. Um, I'm looking forward to that. Like, come on, bring it. Like, I want to see it.
Yeah. I just how it ended, I can see why a lot of people were upset by it. It wasn't my favorite ending either, but I could understand it in terms of how that show ended. But there was so much more that I wanted. And besides Ambrose, my other love from that show is Prudence. Prudence Knight is she's my girl.
I have to say, like, there are certain characters where I'm like, dang, you know what, I hate. Like, I did not like her. I was like, you are messing with the wrong people. But then again, as her story gets told, and as much as we get told of it, just to see her evolution from who she is to like her and her sisters and the way that they all evolve, and then like her and Ambrose and like the adventures that they go on, it's so like she became one of those like badass women characters. I was like, yeah, like I'll cut the head off, do it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think those are the type of characters that I tend to gravitate towards, because like you said, to me, Prudence is the epitome of someone who has gone through a lot of just growth as a person, and you see that over the course of the series. Sabrina, I didn't really see too much growth from her. She kind of pretty much stayed the same person throughout, and she tried to change in some ways, but I wasn't really believing it from her. But from Prudence, I could clearly see, like, oh, okay, well, she's not just a mean girl. Like, so, yes, she can be mean, but she has reasons for for what she's doing, and they may not be correct all the time, but she at least has a method to her madness. And then you see her become less of a mean girl and become more of someone who's just like, okay, well, I'm just fighting to survive for like my coven, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, I absolutely, I loved the growth from her character, and she was another one that I wanted to see a lot more from.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that like one of the other characters that I was like, oh, like this could be so cool is Roz, because of her, like her, family curse, and she is a seer, and then she's actually a witch, and like we didn't really get to experience like her coming to really terms with that, because the show kind of ended, without really helping us out on that front. But I really would have loved to have seen more exploration from her, just getting into her character a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to see her. I wanted to see what it was that they were planning on developing with Mama Mambo, Roz, and Prudence,
Yes.
especially in that final season, because to me, and even just like converting to like the Church of Hecate, like, okay, well, what is the end game here? Like, what are we going toward? Are we going toward just like femininity and like praising like the divine feminine? Like, what is the overall goal that's different from like them deciding to kick Satan to the curb? And then also just the three of them, they seem like they had so much power together. I wanted to see, are they going to be like the three fates in a sense? Like, are they going to start like seeing things and experiencing things that it was like Prudence with her sisters, but it's now Prudence with Roz and Mama Mambo. And I really wanted to see so much more from that. And so hopefully if they bring it back, we can kind of see that materialize.
I hope so, because I feel, again, the final season, they definitely went. I'm you they The final season, like they telegraphed what the big bads were going to be. Like you kind of knew, like, okay, we're going to be dealing with like the Cthulhu type monsters, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do that. But then it kind of got like even weirder near the end. um and however it was received, it was received that way. But there's, again, it feels like we could have had, we deserved, needed more, longer, something to just like get so many of the stories out there, like get these characters some of like well-deserved answers, or fleshed out more, or go places with them. And we didn't get to do that. And maybe one day in the future we will.
I certainly hope so, because I felt let down afterwards, and I wanted so much more, but I had to accept what I got.
Right.
So in that sense, I was like, okay, but at the same time, why didn't you flesh this, and this out? Why was this ending the ending, and why not this? And like, well, what happens with these characters? And so I had so many questions afterward.
Yep. like when I talk with people about fandoms, there's definitely like certain things where it's just like a yup. Like, I can imagine you're nodding your head, I'm nodding my head, and it's kind of like, here we are. Like, here is how things have turned out, and it is what it is.
Yep. Yeah.
we're talking about Netflix shows, and we got Sabrina, which has unfortunately wrapped for now. Crossing fingers, but one show that hasn't finished, and it apparently is going to keep on going because I've heard that they may even have a fifth season after this fourth season comes out in the 2022. But you're also into Stranger Things, which I'm definitely getting like a vibe. Like if Star Wars had like that same Sabrina Stranger Things vibe, I'm sure you'd be all into that side of the Star Wars universe too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love Stranger Things. I remember when that show first came out. And again, the algorithm knows me well because I started watching that show and I was hooked. I was like, oh man, this is like the Goonies and like, all the 80s shows and like movies that I really like, but it's also contemporary and it has, like actors that I enjoy, but then also some new kids. And, it was, I can see why so many people got hooked on it. But for me, I also love the supernatural aspect of it and the fact that they weren't afraid to push the boundaries with these kids.
One of my friends had sent me a message on Facebook. I'll never forget it. She's like, "Have you watched Stranger Things?" I was like, "No, like I'm not really into horror." And she's like, "Oh no, it's not horror like what you're thinking." And she said, "You need to watch it." And I remember watching it, and the first episode, instant hook. The kids are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and it's like,
Mhm.
yep. They're mentioning Lord of the Rings and they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm hooked. And from there, it was just like I had to binge watch the show. And it's luckily, first season it was the only one out at the time. I was like, I must devour everything.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, it's I feel like that's one of those shows where it's definitely a specific audience because I have talked with some people who are just not into it. And, like obviously not every show is for everyone, but to me, like that show, it's just really well executed with the not only are you getting the supernatural aspect, you're getting like the mystery, you're getting the human elements of like the just kids growing up and having to go through those pains of like friendships changing and things that when you were that age you just have to deal with. Also, just the parents not really believing you, but then you have the parent that does believe you and they fight for like tooth and nail to make sure that you're back where you need to be. So I absolutely I love that show.
Again, there's so many characters in this show, and they're all wonderful. But I have to know, like, who do you have? Who's your favorite of the bunch?
I love Lucas. To me, Lucas is so fun. He was like, I remember when watching the first couple of seasons with Lucas, he was like the kid that was like the voice of reason for things. It's what do you mean we're just gonna like let 11 in? Like, who is this girl? Like, you know, you, and I can see that and if you had your clique and then someone new comes in and you have the one person that's like smitten with them, you're suspicious, like you have a right to be suspicious and people just didn't believe him. But obviously 11 turned out to be a good addition to the group. But I really like Lucas, love his sister Erica. I did a cosplay of her one year, so that was fun. But I would say my second favorite character is Dustin. He is just he's just the character's super adorable, but then also he's just like so imaginative. Like if there was a way that I would want to be as a child, like I would want to be Dustin because he's just coming up with all these kind of like create, well, what if we did this? And like creative solutions to things and just he's like the dreamer, I feel like, of that group. And that's a really cool spot to be in.
You mentioned Erica there, and as what I do when I am looking at people's Instagram before talking or inviting them on. Like I scrolled down and I saw that Erica cosplay. I was like, dang, like get it.
She's again the sassy characters for me. I love to see it. And for her in season 3, it was funny how they decided to bring her in and kind of shine more of a light, because before she was just the annoying sister in the first 2 seasons you kind of saw snippets of, but it was like cramping Lucas's style. But then obviously she was an integral part of season 3, and to see her just like with the whole ice cream scene was classic. Like, man, the next time I do that cosplay, I'm going to get me like a whole bowl of ice cream and just make sure that I have ice cream for life.
I loved Erica like being teamed up with Dustin and with Steve and Robin. Like that whole group of them, like that is just, it was a lot of fun to see that. And then to see Lucas and be like, Lucas is like, what is Erica doing over here? It's like, come on now.
Yeah, like, oh, she's part of the team now. Like, he's just like, oh, that's my sister. Like, oh, you don't know, Erica can hold her own. She's been trying to get in with the group and you weren't letting her, but now she's in.
Yes, I love the series. It's actually shockingly like our kids, we let them watch it, I think like 2 years ago. We started watching it with them, just in case they got like scared or had issues. But they got into it too. Like I think they've probably watched it more than we have, because they load it up on their iPads and watch it when, after school or whatever. And I like that. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it has like some of that gore factor, especially in like the last season, but it's still it's not something bad. Like I, some of the 80s movies that we watch are worse, as far as language and stuff with the kids. So,
Hmm.
Stranger Things, like I've loved everything that they've done with it. The third season was absolutely fun and incredible, and I loved, that they added a few more characters and had the group go, and Steve and Robin, and their friendship and relationship, and it is just really fun. I love Steve's growth, as a character that I absolutely hated in season 1, and
Hmm.
was only really down with him once he started swinging, at the Demogorgon near the tail end. But dang, like they've done so well with developing the number of characters that are in that show.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, I remember Steve being he again for me too. He was one of those characters I wasn't sure about, but then yeah, by like especially I think season 3 for me solidified like okay, I like Steve. He's like the dad of the group, trying to make sure that everybody's okay,
Yep.
and that to me is pretty cool to see. And even just like thinking about I know he's not an adult in the series, but to me, like I consider him like one of the grown-ups because the other kids are in the show younger.
Hmm.
But like the other adults, even like I love Hopper's character too, just because he's another reluctant dad figure. But he is just like, well, things are what they are, and I'm just gonna try to make sure that I protect the people that I care about.
Yep. One of the things I love, especially as a former like Dungeons and Dragons player, is they always talk about like don't split the party, right? And all of season 3 is you have like all these little groups of people running around doing stuff and solving their own problems. And one of my favorite scenes in the show is when like the group is all cornered, but then the rest of them show up, and it's like we're all together now. Like everybody's here. Like we're gonna solve everything because we're all here at the same time. We're gonna win.
Yeah, that was cool. I do like though seeing different. I liked how they did split them up though, because it gives the characters the chance to shine in different situations.
Yes.
And that to me also adds to their development just as characters, because you never would have found out about Dustin having his girlfriend way across the country,
Yeah, Susie.
like, and how she came through at the end, to help save everybody, and even just like oh gosh, what's that character? Oh gosh, not say. I'm thinking of the actress's real name is Sadie, but I can't remember what her character's name is.
Oh, Max.
Yes, Max. So even seeing Max come in and have her relationship develop with 11. They very easily could have pitted them against each other, but
Hmm.
they have them working together, developing a friendship. Like, and I loved seeing that too when they introduced her into the mix. And so it's cool how they have these different pockets within you have the larger group, but then the pockets within the groups, and you see just how the different characters just care and have each other's back in these different situations, and just how they interact with each other, I think is great.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to see what they do with season 4. I've been looking forward to it for quite a while, and I'm happy that they released like a little bit of, a teaser of here's what's coming up, and I just want more, and I need more.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I was trying to like pick out the little Easter eggs in the trailer when it released, and like teaser trailer, like, oh man, like, because we see what happens with Hopper, and you're wondering, okay, well, how did 11, like, why is she being held back by people? Like, what's happening? I have a lot of questions, and I'm interested to see if they end up bringing what happened in season 2 with the other kids into the mix with this new season, because to me
Yes.
that whole couple episodes that they had where she was on her off on her own little adventure just seemed so disconnected to me to everything else.
Oh my gosh, that is like the one episode that I still don't like it, right? It just it took us away from everything that was going on, but it was needed for Eleven's growth. But dang it, like you keep thinking like, okay, they're going to reference it, or she's going to show up, or and you just keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's like it doesn't happen, but maybe we'll get something more this season.
I hope so, because I just want it to make sense. I want it to make her going on that path and having those experiences make sense for her larger purpose within the story. And even if it's just the other kids who she met when she was off doing her own little thing, like coming in and helping to help save the day or something. I just want something to show the connection, because we see, everything else as a part with the storytelling has made a lot of sense except for that one part.
Make it make sense,
Yes.
people. And I do hope we get some Mr. Clark, the science teacher. I hope he gets another cameo in the season, because I always like seeing him, especially from the first season. It's always like, dang, he's a great science teacher, and he's like all about like the AV stuff, and talking about like basically talking about like the upside down, like breaking it out for us. And I just hope he gets to like keep showing back up.
I hope so too. He's an unsung hero. If it weren't for him, those kids really wouldn't know a whole lot when it comes to like being able to develop the gadgets and stuff that they end up using throughout, especially like the first season.
Yep. Fingers crossed. So exciting though. Like I absolutely love what they're doing with it, and I'm really happy that we're getting this show, because it's just a nice show to watch and binge when it comes out, because there's nothing really like it out there.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, Brianna. Well, now we get to talk about you, which is the creations and concoctions and craftiness that you are all about. I don't remember exactly when I actually I do. I have the picture up right now. At some point, either Instagram, in its infinite wisdom and algorithmic powers, either showed me some of your work, or somebody has shared it on their stories. But it was you sitting in a Slytherin inspired like top and skirt and green shoes outside of a green door with a wand. And I was like, dang, that's really neat and cool. And I think that was like the first time I started following you and the work that you're putting out.
Oh my goodness. So I actually made that outfit, and I'll never forget, because that was the very first full set that I made. And I was so frustrated making it and thinking like, oh man, I don't know if this is going to look right. And I'm trying all these new techniques that I've never done before. And then, yeah, I like decided to wear it to Universal, went out with a friend, we shot those pictures. And I remember flipping through trying to find a good picture to post to kind of share, like, oh, I'm proud that I spent 3 weeks working on this outfit, let me share it with the world. And yeah, I did not expect to get as much exposure, I guess, as like in terms of like shares. A lot of people ended up sharing that picture, and I was not expecting that. And I kind of don't expect a lot of the things that end up happening with certain things that people decide to share. But it was really cool just to like see other people respond in the way that they did, because like, oh, like this is something that I made and people appreciate it, and that's all that always makes you have a good feeling.
Now we've been talking even before we started recording because it's such a like I don't want to say weird because it's not weird, but like what you do is akin to people like for people that do Disney bounding, or like closet cosplay. But for you, it's in that realm, but in such a different thing. Like because you're doing. I don't like you have like such a unique and different style that I know it's like maybe universal bounding or some kind like I don't really know how to describe it, but it is such a unique thing to look at, like, and it's just exactly what caught my eye because I don't think I'd ever seen anything like that really.
Yeah, I have been trying to figure out a way to describe it too, because I knew nothing about what bounding was or even like Disney bounding until last year when I joined a book club and started kind of getting immersed into that world, because a lot of people who are in my book club are really, really into Disney. And so I just started looking at Disney bounding. I was like, oh, okay, that seems cool, but I'm not a Disney pass holder. So I'm going to try to do what I think would work for Universal. And so I decided to start making outfits. And I already kind of do cosplay and have been teaching myself how to sew. And so for me, I look at it as, well, I want to make something that is cool, that's kind of a subtle homage to whatever fandom it is that I'm trying to represent for that day. And so I'll figure out an outfit that I want to make. And, or even if it's not even me making it from scratch, it's just me figuring out what I have in my closet that will kind of like scream it, but then not be like over the top cartoony with it. And so I style whatever outfit I'm going to go with for that day. And that's that. And I try to document it so that way I see, okay, well, how did I like how I pulled that off? Did I pull it off? And so to me, it's been a really, really fun experience to try to play with my personal style / closet cosplay in that way.
Now, how long have you been doing this for? Is it recent or have you been like dabbling with it before, like, for a number of years and just started to like really focus on it more?
So I have mainly decided it's kind of the last thing that you said. So I started teaching myself how to sew in 2016 for Dragon Con, because I was making my first cosplay, and then I decided, okay, well, I'm going to try to do this a little bit more, learn more skills, and see where it goes. And then life happens, it kind of fell to the wayside. And then the pandemic happened, and I was thinking, okay, well, I want a creative outlet for myself to kind of take my mind off of things. And so I resurrected my sewing machine and started diving into all of the YouTube tutorials and downloading all these patterns and going on quests trying to find things. And so I kind of just developed it that way. And I have to say that shout out to my book club, because they are the ones that inspired me to actually switch my Instagram page into what it is today. I was not doing any of this stuff, and I was not like thinking about styling. I was not thinking about, well, let me kind of show my like fandom personality, my like spooky witchy side, or anything like that. But the people who are a part of my book club are really, really awesome, and that's kind of what they do. on their pages. And so that inspired me to get involved with some challenges that they were putting on. And so that's kind of like the first pictures that you see on my page that were like themed. And so I started thinking, oh, well, I really enjoyed that. So let me see what else I can do with it with what I already have in my closet. Or, okay, well, I also want to make things and make sure that I can actually wear what I'm making out in the real world and not just going to Universal. And so I started thinking about ways that I can put together stuff to have it show off my like magical style, but then also be something that I could wear in the real world if I wanted to.
And your work is so fun, and that's really like the key word that I think like that hooked me was it just looks fun. It looks like you're having fun. You're enjoying yourself in the outfits that you've created, and the definitely like with the overlap with what you are wearing, with where you're taking pictures and shooting, and it just looks like you are having a blast.
Oh, I am having a blast. It's been so cool. I I try not to overthink it, to be honest. Like there's times when I do stress and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what am I where am I gonna take this picture and where like what am I gonna do? And then I think, okay, Briona, it's just like you're doing this for fun. There's no reason for you to overthink what you're doing. And so I'm just like, okay, well, this is the theme that I have for today, and this is just what I'm going to do. And I have these inspiration for pictures, and so that's just kind of how I approach it. I always want to make sure that whatever it is that I'm doing, for whether it's for cosplay, whether it's closet or me making it everything from scratch, or whether it's just styling stuff and having my own spin on it, I always want to make sure that I'm doing it for fun and I'm not putting too much pressure on myself.
I'm looking at your Instagram as we're talking, and yeah, I of course dig the Slytherin representation and the style that you rock with the outfits there. I'd be remiss to not mention like your really cool Marty McFly style, and you did the muses on the rocks at Universal, like from Hercules, which again, cool. I think one of my favorite things though is is because you really write like some really neat stuff along with the picture, and I liked your Real Witches of Grimald Place,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I'm like, dang, like heck yeah, like that'd be a interesting spin on a franchise there.
Oh gosh, I remember when we took that picture and all of us looking at it like, wow, like we look really good. Just like it screamed Real Housewives. And so I just was scrolling through my photos and seeing what I hadn't shared yet. And I saw that picture and I was like, gosh, like I really want to share this picture because I think it looks so great. And like all of us just we're screaming Slytherin and just screaming we are part of the cool kids, if you will. And so to share that picture, I was just like, you know what, we're the Real Witches of Grimald Place. Like this deserves to be a show.
Yes. And recently, like the pictures that you posted of you as Luna and you as Professor Trelawney, it's like, dang, like I love the style that you went with both of those characters, because it's just so wonderful to see like fresh takes on characters that a lot of people grew up with years ago.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, so the Luna outfit I made, and that was really fun because I was just in the fabric store and I saw this fabric and I said, that screams Luna Lovegood to me. Like I have to I have to make something out of this. And I decided I was going to make that outfit that I did. And so I like went online searching for Spectra Specs and I didn't have the Quibbler. I was like, you know what? I have a cool looking book, so let me grab that. And so that's kind of what inspired that. And I actually have another picture that I'm planning on sharing soon for that, just to kind of just I'm really really pumped about how everything turned out. And then with the Professor Trelawney thing, that was a part of a challenge that we did. One of my friends in book club, we were doing like a Clueless slash Harry Potter mashup, and you could do anything that you wanted. And I said, you know what would be unexpected but so cool is if I mixed Professor Trelawney and Miss Geist, because people always do like the Cher, like Dion, all of the like super fashionable girls, but sometimes the quirky women also need love. And so I put those two together, and I had so much fun with it. And I enjoyed like bringing out my like little teapot and like my little teacups and having things to just kind of get in the character and get in that vibe, and to be able to take those pictures was really fun.
Now, what is your decision making process for whether like for like crafting the costume or based on a character or like a fandom piece? Like like how do you get your inspiration, and then where do you go from there once you are inspired to do something?
I would say that I probably get my inspiration a lot from trying to find an unexpected way to represent something that's already been done so many times. And I feel like that's hard to explain, because like I have ideas even now for things that I want to do in the future, but I'm trying to think about, okay, well, how can I do this in a way that maybe people wouldn't expect? Or how can I represent this in a way that is true to me too? And so I kind of start looking through a lot of different pictures. I see what, maybe other people have done, try to get some inspiration. I look online and try to see what different techniques are. And I start kind of compiling a list. And then for sometimes I do actually have an idea for how I want to do something. And I kind of take those notes and see if anyone else has done it. And so I can kind of maybe follow similar steps to get to what I'm wanting to create in real life. So I think that's probably how I go about my creative process, is that I dream up an idea, something that I think maybe either hasn't been done before, or maybe hasn't been represented in that way. And then I start doing a lot of research and looking for pictures and like, how can I reference this? And I kind of go from there.
Do you have any characters or any like fandoms that you're looking at and you're like, you know what, I want to tackle them next? Because I know with cosplayers, there's always like the list of what cosplays you want to do. But I feel like you've got like a different shift, especially with how you create your own outfits and everything, that you might have it more of a like character vibe or like a like fandom, more like fandom based rather than specific characters.
Yeah. So I want to do, I'm trying to, I'm trying to think about the best way to explain it, because I have cosplays, like things that I want to make that are accurate, but I feel like there's certain characters that I want to do with that. But in terms of making it into like a real life style, I would say that the next thing that's probably on my mind is more so like gothic witch vampire themed.
Hmm.
And like, because I'm a fan of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, there are a lot of outfits that Prudence wears that I want to do my own spin on. And some things I want to recreate, but there are other things that I actually want to like do my own kind of take on this thing that she wears in the show and kind of bring that to life. So that would be one immediate one that I have had living in my brain for a long time.
I know that there's been a push recently and I know you had posted something earlier this year for Black Day. If I'm getting that correct, I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I got it correct.
Mhm.
And I know that there's a something happening in a month or two, and it's centered on black vampires and getting those creations out there, because it's definitely like an underrepresented or underrepresentation in media or in literature or in consumable uh you know characters that are out there, and people are putting their spin on it. And it's definitely something where I've been really enjoying like the creativity from the people that are participating, and getting to really show what they can do. And I know that you had posted pictures from this year, and it's definitely something that's something to watch.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I found out about Black Fae Day pretty late, and I was frantic about what can I create for this, and the idea that I actually had in mind was not anything like what I ended up doing and posting on my page. And hopefully one day I will be able to create what I had in mind, but resources and time. But I I do really think that there needs to be more representation of fictional, whether it's fantasy characters, science fiction characters, mystical characters that are like people of color or creatures of color, just because it's so important, just to be able to show that diversity and to be able to show that those spaces can exist, and those fans, like real fans, do exist within these realms, and like there's a market for it. And as you saw with Black Fae Day, like there's a lot of people who are creative and who want to see those stories told and those genres represented, but it's not there yet.
Absolutely. And to bounce off of that, to make sure that uh if there is representation, that they're not always like the villain or the bad character in that media representation, because more often than not, like that's where you kind of get them at, like, in those shows or whatnot.
Absolutely. I even just growing up, you do see, you think back now, and you don't realize it when you were growing up, but I go back and watch certain things now and realize, like, oh wow, like I didn't pick up on how this particular character was being portrayed at the time. And so I do hope that there are more stories that do kind of tell wider, um, main character protagonist type storylines, for sure.
Absolutely. I know you said you're working on a number of things, but for people that are listening and they're like, well, what are these things and where can I see them? Brianna, how do people find what you're doing?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Stitches and Spells.
And see, it makes it easy. Like, you don't have Twitter or Facebook or TikTok and lots of links. You got one place. So if you're listening, you got one link to click. All you need to do is hit the follow button, and then of course, please, comment and share Brianna's work as appropriate. Whatever you'd like to be like, hey, my people that follow me would like to see that. So share it out. Let Brianna know that you listen to her on this podcast, because you know it'd be cool to for people to know that. But Brianna, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening, day, to come hang out with me and talk about your S fandoms that you loved, because I enjoyed getting to listen to them, and I feel there's so much more that we could talk about, but we only have so much time in, I can't have 5-hour episodes, and that would be taking away from your time. However, before we wrap up, I just want to say, if you look at Brianna's work on Instagram, I just want to say that her husband takes those pictures, most of them, and much kudos to her husband for taking those pictures, because I understand the difficulty of taking pictures for other people. So many kudos to him.
He is the real MVP. I do a lot of the editing, but he takes the photos and he deserves props.
Absolutely. But thank you, Brianna, for hanging out with me tonight, for talking about your fandoms, and just having a really enjoyable conversation. I really enjoyed getting to listen to your stories tonight.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure being here and getting to share what I'm passionate about with you.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.